I'm Moana, 28 years old, and I never imagined my own family would betray me so completely. Last Tuesday, I was sitting in my San Francisco office when my assistant showed me an Instagram post that made my blood run cold. There was my entire family, all 15 of them, lounging on the deck of MY $3.2 million Malibu beach house, using MY outdoor kitchen, with my mother's caption reading, "Best family vacation ever." Hashtag blessed. They never asked. They never even invited me. Before I continue this shocking story of family betrayal, I want to know where you're watching from today. Are you someone who's dealt with toxic family members too? Please hit that like button if you believe family should respect boundaries, and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of overcoming betrayal. Trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless, because this was just the beginning of their calculated plan to destroy everything I'd built. My hands were shaking as I dialed my mother Faith's number. When she answered, her voice was casual, almost bored, like she was discussing the weather instead of breaking into my home. "Oh honey, we've only been here 3 days. We didn't want to bother you since you're always so busy with that company of yours." 3 days. They'd been living in my house for 3 days without telling me. The casualness of her confession made it worse somehow, like violating my trust was nothing more than borrowing a cup of sugar. "Mom, that's breaking and entering. How did you even get in?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but fury was building in my chest. "We used the spare key you gave us, sweetheart. You know, for emergencies." For emergencies. I'd given them that key after the Woolsey fire, when evacuation zones were changing hourly, thinking I was being a responsible daughter. Now they were using it for an unauthorized vacation. My brother Drake got on the phone next, and his admission hit even harder. "Look, Moana, we've been planning this for 2 months. Everyone's here, even cousin Bethany flew in from Denver. We have a whole group chat about it. 2 months of planning, and nobody thought to include me. There was a family group chat I wasn't even added to." I pulled up my security app with trembling fingers, watching the footage of their arrival. It wasn't this small family gathering my mother was now trying to spin. I counted 15 people dragging suitcases up my driveway, some I barely recognized as distant relatives. They'd brought coolers, beach equipment, even what looked like DJ equipment. This wasn't a casual drop-in, this was a full-scale invasion. The cameras showed them going through my things, moving my furniture, entering my private office where I keep confidential business documents. My mother was in my bedroom, going through my closet. Drake was in my wine cellar, examining bottles I'd been collecting for years. "Mom, you need to leave. All of you. Right now," I said, my voice harder now. That's when the guilt tripping started, the manipulation I'd grown up with, but somehow never built immunity to. "Moana, family comes first. You have this big, beautiful house sitting empty while you're in San Francisco. We're your blood. How can you be so selfish? Your grandmother would be rolling in her grave." She invoked my late grandmother, knowing it was my weak spot. But they'd crossed a line. They'd posted everything on social media, tagging the location, showing the interior of my home. As someone who dealt with stalkers and security threats due to my tech company's success, they'd just broadcast my private sanctuary to the entire internet. Drake laughed when I mentioned the security concerns. "Come on, sis, you're not that important. Nobody cares about your little app company." Little app company. The little company I'd built from nothing, that now employed 200 people and was valued at $50 million. The same brother who'd begged me for a job just 6 months ago was now minimizing everything I'd achieved. Faith took the phone back. "We'll discuss this when you get here. Drive safe, honey. Oh, and can you pick up some more steaks? We're having a barbecue tomorrow." The audacity of asking me to bring supplies to my own house for their unauthorized party was breathtaking. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer, but it was after hours. My assistant Kenji watched me pace, his usually cheerful face creased with concern. "Ms. Moana, should I cancel your meetings tomorrow?" I nodded, already pulling up flights. But everything was booked. Of course. Summer in California meant tourists everywhere. I'd have to drive. 6 hours of highway between me and whatever destruction they were wreaking on my sanctuary. As I threw things in an overnight bag, my phone buzzed constantly. They were posting more photos. My cousin's teenager was doing TikTok dances in my living room. Someone was swimming in my infinity pool at sunset, the one I'd had custom designed to blend with the ocean view. The violation felt physical. That house wasn't just property to me. It was where I'd recovered after my mentor's death, where I'd written the business plan that changed my life, where I'd learned to trust myself again after years of family manipulation. It was my proof that I'd made it despite their constant predictions of failure. Now they were treating it like a free hotel, and worse, acting like I was the unreasonable one for objecting. As I started the long drive south, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was about more than just a free vacation. My family had been acting strange lately, making odd comments about my success, asking probing questions about my finances. The realization that this might be planned, that there might be more to this invasion than mere entitlement, made me press harder on the accelerator. Whatever was waiting for me in Malibu, I had a sick feeling it was going to be worse than I imagined. The 6-hour drive from San Francisco to Malibu felt like an eternity. I white-knuckled the steering wheel down Highway 101, my mind racing faster than my Tesla. Every mile that passed, my phone lit up with new notifications. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they were documenting their takeover of my home like conquering heroes. My sister Sage, who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years after I refused to invest in her 15th failed business venture, was posing in my master bedroom wearing what looked suspiciously like my Versace dress. The last time we'd talked, she'd called me a sellout capitalist bitch. Now she was playing dress up in my closet. When I finally pulled up to my house at 1 a.m, the scene was worse than I'd imagined. Cars lined the street, at least 20 of them, including several I didn't recognize. Music thumped from inside, bass lines vibrating through my custom-installed soundproof windows that were apparently wide open. Lights blazed from every room, and I could see figures moving on my deck, shadows dancing against the ocean backdrop. This wasn't a family gathering, this was a full-blown house party. My sanctuary had become a nightclub. I slammed my car door and stormed up the pathway I'd personally designed with imported Italian stones. The front door was propped open with one of my bronze sculptures, a piece I'd bought at auction for $12,000 now serving as a doorstop. Inside, chaos reigned. Strangers filled my living room, red cups in hand, ash from cigarettes dropping onto my white carpet. Someone had moved my baby grand piano to make room for beer pong tables. The kitchen was a disaster zone of empty bottles and food debris. My commercial-grade appliances were being abused by people who had no idea how to use them properly. Moana, you made it. My mother appeared, clearly intoxicated, wearing a party hat like this was some kind of celebration. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. The hurt in her eyes was almost convincing. Almost. Look at this turnout. Isn't it wonderful? Family and friends all together. I scanned the crowd, recognizing maybe half the faces. The rest were strangers, friends of friends, people my family had apparently invited to party in my home without my permission. The rage built in my chest like a physical thing, hot and sharp. Everyone needs to leave. Now. My voice cut through the music, sharp enough that several people turned to stare. That's when Conrad, my next-door neighbor, appeared at my elbow. The elderly man looked uncomfortable, and I could see why. His usual pristine appearance was disheveled, like he'd been dragged to this party against his will. Moana, thank God you're here. They've been telling everyone you approved this, that you wanted a big family reunion. I knew something wasn't right when they started letting random people from the beach come in. Random people from the beach. My private beach access, one of the reasons this property cost millions, had been turned into a public entrance. Before I could respond to Conrad, my brother Drake appeared, swaying slightly. In his hand was a bottle I recognized immediately. Chateau Margaux 1996, worth $3,000. One of 12 bottles I'd been saving in my temperature-controlled wine cellar. This stuff is incredible, sis. You've got quite the collection down there. We've been doing tastings all day. All day. They'd been going through my wine collection all day. I pushed past him, heading for the cellar, my heart sinking with each step. The door stood open, the careful climate control violated. Empty bottles littered the floor. They'd consumed at least 10 bottles, $30,000 worth of carefully curated wine drunk like it was boxed Franzia. But the wine was just the beginning. In my bedroom, I found Sage and her latest boyfriend sprawled across my bed, my designer clothes strewn across the floor. My jewelry box sat open on the dresser, and with growing horror, I realized my grandmother's pearl necklace was missing. The matching earrings and bracelet were gone too. These weren't just valuable pieces, they were the only things I had left of the woman who'd believed in me when no one else did. "Where's grandmother's jewelry?" I demanded. Sage sat up lazily, not even bothering to cover herself properly. "What jewelry? I haven't seen any jewelry." "God, Moana, you're so paranoid. Always thinking everyone's trying to steal from you." The gaslighting was instant and familiar. This was how it always went. They'd violate boundaries, steal, lie, then make me feel crazy for noticing. My father Wayne materialized in the doorway, his expression already set in the disapproving frown I'd known all my life. "Moana, you're making a scene. These people are our guests. Your mother worked hard to bring everyone together, and you're ruining it with your selfishness." My selfishness. I was selfish for not wanting 50 strangers in my home. Selfish for not wanting my property destroyed. Selfish for expecting basic respect. "Dad, they broke into my house. They're destroying my property. They stole grandmother's jewelry." He waved his hand dismissively. "You always were too attached to material things. Money has changed you, made you forget what's important. Family is what matters, not some old jewelry or fancy wine." The man who'd spent my college fund at the casino was lecturing me about materialism. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so painful. When I demanded again that everyone leave, threatening to call the police, the family circled around me like wolves. "Squatters' rights," Uncle Carl shouted, clearly drunk. "We've established residency. You can't just throw us out." They laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world, but something in their eyes made me wonder if they'd actually researched this. That's when I noticed Bethany, my younger cousin, holding up her phone. She'd been recording the entire confrontation, and the angle she chose made me look unhinged, wild-eyed, while carefully avoiding showing the destruction around us. "This is going to make such great content," she giggled. Crazy rich cousin loses her mind over a little party. Within minutes, the edited video was online. The caption read, "When your millionaire cousin cares more about her mansion than her family." #toxic. #greed. #family last. The comments started immediately, strangers calling me heartless, selfish, a typical rich bitch who forgot where she came from. The narrative was being written in real time, and I was cast as the villain in my own home. By morning, the video had 30,000 views. I sat in my car outside my own home, having been effectively driven out by the mob inside, scrolling through comment after comment calling me entitled, narcissistic, evil. People who didn't know me, who had never met me, were sending death threats based on a carefully edited video that showed none of the destruction, none of the theft, none of the violation. My phone rang constantly, but I only answered when I saw Graham Peterson's name. My lawyer's voice was grave. "Moana, I've seen the social media posts. We need to move fast. Can you meet me at my office in an hour?" The drive to Graham's Beverly Hills office was surreal. My phone buzzed with Google alerts. The story was spreading beyond social media. "Tech millionaire tries to evict own family," read one headline. They'd found my company website, my LinkedIn, even old college photos. The narrative was solidifying. Heartless tech bro, except I was a woman, so they called me worse things, who cared more about property than people. Graham was waiting with his team, their faces grim. "First, we need to establish that they're trespassing. Do you have any written communication where they acknowledge they don't have permission?" I pulled up the family group chat I'd finally been added to that morning, where they were joking about Mission Malibu takeover and Operation Free Vacation. Clear evidence of premeditation. "This is good," Graham nodded, "but they're going to fight dirty. I'm already seeing social media posts claiming you gave verbal permission. Your sister Sage posted that you told her last Christmas she could use the house anytime." Last Christmas, when I hadn't even spoken to Sage. The lies were starting already. We'll file for immediate eviction, but Moana, California law is tricky with family situations. This could take weeks. Weeks. They could destroy everything in weeks. Graham's assistant knocked, looking nervous. Mr. Peterson, you need to see this. She handed him a tablet showing a legal document. My blood ran cold as I read it. My family had hired their own lawyer and were claiming partial ownership of the property based on sweat equity and verbal promises. The document was signed by my Aunt Lorraine, who I now remembered was a paralegal. She'd been advising them, helping them establish what looked like legitimate claims. There were photos of my father maintaining the garden, actually just him posing with a rake during one visit 2 years ago. There were statements from family members claiming I'd promised them the house was the family vacation home and that I'd bought it for everyone to enjoy. Every casual comment I'd ever made was being twisted into a legal claim. The betrayal cut deeper than the theft. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. They're also claiming emotional distress, Graham continued. Your mother went on Good Morning Malibu an hour ago. He pulled up the video on his computer. There was Faith, dressed conservatively, tears streaming down her face as she told a completely fabricated story. According to her, I was a cold daughter who had abandoned my family for money, who had promised them this vacation then cruelly reneged when they arrived. The host, clearly moved, asked gentle questions that let Faith paint herself as a devoted mother just trying to bring her family together. She works so hard, Faith sobbed. We never see her. I just wanted 1 week with my daughter in the house she said we could always consider our second home. The interview was perfectly crafted manipulation. She mentioned my success repeatedly but framed it as something that had corrupted me. She talked about how proud she was while implying I'd become too good for them. She even brought up my grandmother, claiming the house was bought with inheritance money that should have been shared. All lies. I'd bought the house with my own money, earned from years of 18-hour days building my company. But the truth didn't matter. The narrative was set. Within hours, the interview had been shared thousands of times, with comments calling me heartless, suggesting I deserved whatever happened to my property. My phone rang. Sterling, my CFO. Moana, we have a problem. The Yamamoto Group is reconsidering the merger. They're concerned about the optics. The Yamamoto Group, our biggest potential acquisition, worth $100 million to my company. Their board saw the media coverage. They're a family company. They can't be associated with someone who treats family this way. I wanted to scream. The irony of losing a deal about family values because my family was destroying my life was too much. But it got worse. Sterling continued, and I've had 3 resignation letters today. People are uncomfortable. The office atmosphere is tense. The smear campaign was working exactly as my family intended. Or was it intended? The coordination seemed too perfect, too strategic. Then Graham showed me something that made everything click. Your brother Drake has been making interesting Google searches. My investigator found his digital footprint. He's been researching property law, adverse possession, how to force property sales. This goes back 8 months. 8 months. While I was helping Drake get a job at a tech startup, he was researching how to steal my house. The depth of the betrayal was staggering. There's more, Graham said quietly. Your ex-best friend, Jasmine Chin, did an exclusive with TMZ. She's supporting your family's version. I couldn't breathe. Jasmine, who I'd confided in about every family hurt, every boundary violation, was now using those private conversations against me. In the interview, she portrayed me as someone who'd always been cold to my family, who used money as a weapon. She revealed personal details about my therapy, my struggles with family boundaries, twisting them to make me sound disturbed. The ultimate betrayal from someone I'd trusted with my deepest vulnerabilities. As we planned our legal response, my phone buzzed with a fraud alert. Someone had tried to open credit cards in my name. Then another alert. And another. My family had access to my mail at the house, to documents with my personal information. They weren't just trying to take my house, they were trying to destroy my entire life. Graham's face was grave as he realized the scope. Moana, this isn't just about a vacation. They're trying to force you into a position where you have to sell the house. With your credit destroyed, your business suffering, they think you'll cave. The pieces fell into place. The family vacation was just the opening move in a much larger game. And I was already losing. The meeting with my board of directors felt like walking into an execution. I sat at the head of the conference table I'd bought when we'd moved into our new offices, facing 8 people who'd once believed in my vision. Now they looked at me like I was radioactive. Board Chairman Russell cleared his throat, his expression carefully neutral. Moana, we need to discuss the impact of your personal situation on the company. We've lost 3 major clients this week. 3 clients. 200,000 in monthly revenue, gone because my family's fiction was more compelling than my truth. Furthermore, Russell continued, we've received concerning information from someone claiming to be your brother. My stomach dropped. Drake. What had he done now? He provided what he claims are internal documents showing questionable financial practices, suggesting you've been using company funds for personal expenses. The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed. Every cent I'd spent was documented, every expense approved by our CFO. But Drake had been in my home office. He'd had access to documents that, taken out of context, could be twisted to look suspicious. Of course, we're investigating, Russell said, but the optics are troubling. The optics. It always came back to optics in Silicon Valley. Truth was secondary to perception. My marketing director, someone I'd mentored from intern to executive, wouldn't meet my eyes. We've also been contacted by Blake Harrison from Nexus Technologies. He seems to have intimate knowledge of our product roadmap for next quarter. Blake Harrison. My biggest competitor, who'd been trying to poach my team for years. And intimate knowledge of our roadmap? The only way he could have that was if someone had given him documents from my home office. Documents my family had access to during their occupation of my house. I excused myself to check my phone and the betrayal deepened. There was an email from Sterling, my CFO, sent to the entire board. After careful consideration, I've accepted a position with Nexus Technologies. My decision is based on concerns about leadership stability and company direction. Sterling, who I'd brought in as a founder who owned 5% of the company, was jumping ship to my competitor. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Within hours, 3 more resignations hit my inbox. My head of engineering, my lead developer, my VP of sales. All going to Nexus or other competitors. All citing variations of toxic leadership and company culture concerns. The coup de grace came from an unexpected source. Jasmine, my former best friend, had started a blog called The Truth About Moana. In it, she published private text messages from years ago, selectively edited to paint me as cruel, unstable, manipulative. She revealed business strategies I discussed with her in confidence, details about deals that were still confidential. She even posted photos from my home, clearly taken recently, meaning she was in contact with my family during their occupation. The blog went viral in tech circles. Every entrepreneur who'd ever felt threatened by my success now had ammunition. My lawyer Graham called with more bad news. They've escalated. Your family is now claiming the business was built with family money, that your father gave you the initial investment. My father, who had never given me a cent, who had laughed when I'd asked for a $50 loan in college, was now claiming he'd funded my company. But they'd created fake documents, forged emails, manufactured evidence. It would take months to disprove, and in the court of public opinion, I was already guilty. The narrative was complete: spoiled rich girl who built her empire on family money, now too good to share her success. My employees started avoiding me in the hallways. Conversations stopped when I walked by. The Slack channels I wasn't supposed to know about lit up with gossip and speculation. Someone leaked our burn rate to TechCrunch, sparking articles about the company's impending doom. Investors started calling, concerned about stability. One actually suggested I step down as CEO of my own company until things blow over. The company I'd built from nothing, that I'd sacrificed everything for, was being stolen from me just like my house. Then came the final blow. An email from our biggest client, 40% of our revenue, due to recent events and concerns about company leadership, We're terminating our contract effective immediately. The carefully worded message made it clear they'd been in communication with concerned parties about the company's direction. My family hadn't just come for my house, they'd come for everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Drake. Ready to talk about selling that house yet? Could solve a lot of problems for everyone. The mask was off. This had always been about forcing me to liquidate assets, to give them what they felt they were owed. I sat in my office as the sun set over San Francisco, watching my life's work crumble in real time. Every refresh brought new disasters, more clients leaving, more employees resigning, more investors pulling out. My family had weaponized my success against me, turned every achievement into a liability. The girl who'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through college, who'd slept in her car while building her first prototype, was being rewritten as a privileged princess who'd stolen from her family. And the worst part? People believed it. Because the story of a greedy tech founder was more compelling than the truth of a family's calculated destruction. As my phone rang with another reporter requesting comment on the family fraud scandal, I realized I was fighting a war on multiple fronts, and I was losing all of them. The call from Marcus came at 2 in the morning. I'd been lying awake in my hotel room, the luxury suite feeling more like a prison cell, when his ringtone shattered the silence. My fiancé's voice was cold, distant, nothing like the man who'd proposed to me just 3 months ago on this very beach below my stolen house. "Moana, we need to talk. I'm coming by the hotel." The dread in my stomach told me everything before he even arrived. When he walked into my room 20 minutes later, he couldn't meet my eyes. The 3-carat engagement ring I'd been wearing was already in my jewelry box, hidden away like something shameful. "I can't do this anymore," he said, still staring at the floor. "The drama, the media attention, the constant crisis. This isn't what I signed up for." This isn't what he signed up for. Like our relationship was a business contract with terms and conditions. "Marcus, you know none of this is my fault. You know who I am, who they are." He finally looked at me then, and the coldness in his eyes made me step back. "Do I? Because Sage has been telling me things. Things about your past, about how you've always been difficult with your family, always causing problems." Sage, my sister who he'd met exactly twice, was now his confidant. "You've been talking to my sister? Behind my back?" The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "She reached out, said she was concerned about you, about us. She told me about your history of cutting people off, about how you use money to control people. She showed me messages, Moana. Messages where you talk about not wanting to share your success, about keeping your family at arm's length. Messages taken out of context, conversations about boundaries twisted into something ugly. But Marcus had already made up his mind. He'd chosen to believe a woman he barely knew over the person he claimed to love. She also told me about your trust issues, about how you'll eventually push me away like you did everyone else." The manipulation was masterful. Sage had planted seeds of doubt, watered them with half-truths and twisted narratives. "I need stability, Moana. I need a partner who comes with less baggage." Less baggage. My family trying to destroy me was baggage. He left the ring on the coffee table, a final insult. 3 years together, plans for a future, children we'd named in late-night conversations, all gone because my sister had whispered poison in his ear and he'd swallowed every drop. The next morning brought fresh disasters. My bank called about suspicious activity on my accounts. Someone had tried to take out a home equity loan on the Malibu house using forged documents. The only reason it had been flagged was because I'd put a fraud alert on everything after the credit card attempts. But the attempt itself was sophisticated, using information only someone with intimate knowledge of my finances could have. The loan officer's words chilled me. "If this had gone through, you'd be looking at a $3 million loan against your property, due in full in 90 days. A loan I couldn't pay without selling the house." The endgame was becoming crystal clear. My health started crumbling under the constant stress. Panic attacks hit without warning, leaving me gasping for breath in bathroom stalls and parking garages. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, heard their laughter as they destroyed everything I'd built. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, my clothes hanging loose on a frame that had always been strong. Dr. Martinez, who'd been my physician since I'd moved to San Francisco, looked at my test results with genuine concern. Your cortisol levels are dangerously high. Your blood pressure is in the red zone. Moana, this level of sustained stress is literally killing you. But there was no escape from the stress when my own family was the source. Faith had escalated her media campaign, now doing a podcast circuit where she tearfully described my mental health struggles and suggested I needed intervention. She's always been troubled, she told one sympathetic host. We've tried to help her, but she pushes everyone away. I fear for her safety. The Concerned Mother Act was Oscar-worthy, and it worked. Old friends started reaching out with worry, suggesting therapists, meditation retreats, asking if I was okay, in that way that meant they thought I wasn't. Some blocked me entirely, convinced by my mother's performance that I was unstable and toxic. Professor Chin, my mentor from Stanford who'd guided me through my MBA, who'd been like a second father to me, sent a brief email. I think it's best if we suspend our monthly meetings until your situation stabilizes. The association has become problematic for my other ments. Even he had abandoned me. The man who'd taught me to stand up for myself was stepping back because the optics were bad. Everyone I'd thought would stand by me was retreating, leaving me alone in a hotel room while my family partied in my house. The board called an emergency meeting. They wanted me to take an indefinite leave of absence, for the good of the company. The company I'd founded, that bore my vision in every line of code, needed me gone. They dressed it up as concern for my well-being, but the subtext was clear. I was now a liability. The final knife came in an Instagram post from my family. They were holding my 20th birthday party at my house. Without me. There was a cake, decorations, even a banner that said, "Happy Birthday, Moana. Wish you were here." The comments were full of sympathy for my loving family, trying to celebrate without their estranged daughter. I sat on the hotel bed, holding the bottle of pills Dr. Martinez had prescribed for anxiety, and for the first time since this started, I considered giving up. Selling the house, giving them what they wanted, disappearing somewhere they couldn't find me. The fight had drained everything from me, cost me everything I'd worked for. My business was in ruins, my reputation destroyed, my health shattered, my fiancé gone. All because I dared to succeed, dared to build something they couldn't take credit for. The family that was supposed to love me had orchestrated my complete destruction, and they were winning. As I stared at the pills, my phone buzzed with another text from Drake. "Happy birthday, sis. Make a wish. Maybe wish you'd been a better daughter." Even on my birthday, alone in a hotel room I was paying for while they lived in my house, they couldn't resist twisting the knife one more time. The private investigator's name was Riley Nakamura, a former FBI agent who specialized in financial crimes. Graham had recommended her when it became clear this was more than just a family squabble. She sat across from me in the hotel conference room, her expression serious as she laid out file after file. "Your instincts were right. This isn't just opportunistic. Your family has been planning this for at least a year, possibly longer." She showed me email threads between Drake and my father dating back 14 months, discussing strategies to access Moana's assets and force a favorable outcome. "Your father has gambling debts. Serious ones. We're talking $500,000 to some very unforgiving people." She slid photos across the table showing Wayne at various casinos, betting slips, even surveillance footage of him meeting with known loan sharks. He's desperate. The house scheme was his idea, but the execution? That's your Aunt Lorraine. She's been researching squatters' rights, adverse possession laws, even recruited a cousin who works at a bank to help with the fraud attempts. The conspiracy was broader than I'd imagined, but finally having proof felt like breathing again after being underwater. Riley's team had also uncovered something unexpected. "Your brother Drake has been in communication with Blake Harrison from Nexus Technologies for 6 months, long before this vacation situation. He's been feeding Blake information about your company in exchange for a promised executive position." My own brother had been committing corporate espionage, selling out the company I'd helped him get a job at. But Drake was sloppy. He'd used his work email, left digital fingerprints everywhere. "This is criminal," Riley said. "With this evidence, we're looking at charges for conspiracy, theft of trade secrets, wire fraud." My assistant Kenji had been quietly documenting everything from day one. Sweet, unassuming Kenji, who everyone overlooked, had been taking screenshots, saving posts before they were deleted, recording conversations when my family called the office. "I knew something was wrong when they started calling asking about your schedule," he told me. "I've been building a file." His file was comprehensive, every lie my family told, complete with timestamps and contradictions. He'd even caught them on security footage breaking into my house that first day, clearly showing them using tools to get in when the key didn't work immediately. Bernard Falk, the forensic accountant Graham brought in, had worse news but better evidence. "They've stolen more than we thought. The wine collection was just the start. They've been selling your belongings online. Art, electronics, even furniture." He showed me eBay listings under fake names selling items I recognized from my house. The total theft was over $200,000. But every sale was traceable, every transaction led back to them. Your sister Sage was particularly greedy. She used her real PayPal account for some sales. Amateur move. The same sister who'd stolen grandmother's jewelry was selling my belongings to strangers, and she'd been stupid enough to leave a trail. Graham's eyes lit up as he reviewed everything. "This changes the game entirely. We're not playing defense anymore. Criminal charges will stick. Civil suits for damages, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress." We filed everything at once, a legal tsunami that caught them completely off guard. The eviction was reframed as removal of criminal trespassers. The ownership claims were countered with evidence of fraud. The media narrative started shifting when we released select pieces of evidence, starting with the security footage of the break-in. I hired a PR firm that specialized in crisis management. They crafted a careful response strategy, starting with releasing the full, unedited videos that Bethany had selectively posted. The complete footage showed the destruction, the theft, the army of strangers in my home. We released Drake's emails about the plan and screenshots of him researching how to force property sales. Public opinion began shifting as people realized they'd been manipulated. Tech blogger Nina Walsh, who had a reputation for investigative journalism, picked up the story and started digging deeper. Her piece, "The Family Grift: How Relatives Conspired to Destroy a Female Founder," went viral in the tech community. The security footage of my mother going through my office, photographing documents, was particularly damaging to their narrative. The image of grieving mother trying to reconnect with her daughter clashed badly with video evidence of her rifling through confidential business files. When we released the emails between Drake and Nexus Technologies, the business community reacted with outrage. Corporate espionage was something that affected everyone in Silicon Valley. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain. I was a victim of something that could happen to any successful founder. My former FBI agent turned investigator had one more surprise. Your cousin Bethany's phone was a goldmine. She documented everything, thinking she was creating content. She actually recorded your family planning sessions, discussing how to manipulate the media, how to force you to sell. The videos were damning. There was my father saying, "She owes us." That success should be family success. There was Lorraine coaching everyone on what to say if questioned by police. There was Drake laughing about stealing my client list. Their own documentation of their conspiracy became evidence against them. Within 48 hours of our legal filing and PR campaign, the narrative had completely flipped. The reporters who'd been hounding me for comments about being a bad daughter were now asking about my experience with family fraud. The employees who'd been resigning started reaching back out, realizing they'd been manipulated. 3 of the clients who'd left called to discuss returning. Even Sterling sent a tentative email asking if we could talk. The board called an emergency meeting, this time to discuss how to support me through this crisis rather than how to remove me. The tide was turning, and my family was about to learn that I hadn't built my success by being weak. I'd built it by being smart, strategic, and when necessary, ruthless. They'd started this war, but I was going to end it. The courtroom was packed the day the judge delivered her verdict. My family sat on one side, their confident expressions fading as Judge Harrison methodically dismantled their case. The evidence presented shows a clear pattern of premeditated fraud, theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. The defendants' claims of ownership are not only baseless, but appear to be part of a larger criminal enterprise. She turned to my father, her expression stern. "Mr. Wayne, your gambling debts do not entitle you to your daughter's assets. Your conspiracy to defraud her is particularly egregious given the familial relationship." The judgment was comprehensive. Immediate eviction, criminal charges for breaking and entering, grand theft, conspiracy, and fraud. Restitution for the stolen property, damages for the business losses, even punitive damages for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. The total came to $1.8 million. My family's faces went white as the reality hit them. They'd tried to steal everything from me and had lost everything instead. But what came next surprised everyone, including my lawyer. As my family sat there, shattered and facing bankruptcy, I stood up. "Your Honor, I'd like to address the court." Judge Harrison nodded. "Despite everything they've done, they're still my family. I'm willing to drop the civil suits and not pursue the full damages on one condition. My father enters rehabilitation for his gambling addiction, and the family attends mandatory therapy for a year. The criminal charges stand because actions have consequences, but I won't be the one to destroy them financially." The courtroom was silent. My mother started crying, but these tears seemed real for the first time. My father looked at me with something I'd never seen before, respect mixed with shame. The months that followed were a whirlwind of rebuilding. The criminal cases proceeded, with most of my family receiving probation and community service. Drake got 18 months for the corporate espionage, a sentence that finally made him understand the gravity of his actions. Sage was ordered to pay restitution for the stolen items. The others faced various consequences, but none were destroyed. Wayne entered rehab at a facility I'd researched, finally facing the addiction that had driven so much destruction. I sold the Malibu house within a month. The place that had been my sanctuary had been forever tainted by their occupation. But instead of keeping all the proceeds, I donated $1 million to a charity supporting victims of family financial abuse. The irony wasn't lost on me that my family's actions had led to helping others in similar situations. The rest went into a trust that would pay for family therapy and support programs, accessible only for legitimate medical and mental health needs. I wasn't abandoning them, but I was protecting myself. My company not only survived but thrived. The way I'd handled the crisis, with strategic thinking rather than emotional retaliation, impressed investors and clients. We landed 3 major contracts in the months following the trial, including a partnership with the Yamamoto Group, who praised our integrity under pressure. The employees who'd stood by me became the core of a stronger company culture. Kenji got promoted to Chief of Staff, his loyalty and intelligence finally properly rewarded. Even Sterling returned, humbled and having learned that grass isn't always greener at companies that recruit through corporate espionage. Seattle became my new home. I bought a penthouse with state-of-the-art security and, more importantly, no spare keys for anyone. The view of Puget Sound was different from Malibu's beaches, but equally beautiful. I built new routines, new boundaries, new definitions of success. Adrian, a software engineer I met at a conference, became first a friend, then more. He came from a healthy family who respected boundaries, showed me what normal looked like. When he proposed a year later, it was with the understanding that my boundaries weren't walls, but necessary protection. A year after the trial, I hosted my first dinner party in Seattle. Around my table sat the people who'd earned their place in my life. Kenji, Graham, Riley, a few loyal employees, new friends who knew my story but didn't define me by it. Adrian's parents, who'd welcomed me without judgment. This was my chosen family, built on respect rather than blood, loyalty rather than obligation. As we toasted to new beginnings, I thought about the lesson this whole ordeal had taught me. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands by you when the world turns dark. Blood relation doesn't entitle anyone to destroy your life. steal your success, or violate your boundaries. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from those who claim to love you, but show nothing but entitlement and manipulation. I'd lost my biological family's presence in my life, but I'd gained something far more valuable: the knowledge that I was strong enough to stand alone and wise enough to build something better. The last I heard, my family was actually doing better. Without the toxic dynamics, with therapy and accountability, some of them were finding healthier paths. Faith sent a letter through Graham, not asking for anything, just acknowledging the pain she'd caused. I didn't respond, but I kept the letter. Maybe someday, when the wounds weren't so fresh, there might be room for something new. But it would be on my terms, with my boundaries and my time. For now, I was content with the life I'd built from the ashes of what they'd tried to burn down. As I stood on my Seattle balcony, watching the sun set over the water, I realized their betrayal had given me an unexpected gift. It had freed me from the guilt, the obligation, the constant emotional drain of trying to maintain relationships with people who only saw me as a resource to exploit. My success was fully mine now, untainted by their claims or manipulations. The family that had tried to destroy me had instead revealed my true strength. And that strength had built something they could never take away: a life filled with genuine love, real respect, and the kind of family you choose rather than the kind you're stuck with. What would you do if your own family planned your destruction? Would you have the strength to choose yourself over blood ties? Have you ever had to set boundaries with toxic family members who felt entitled to your success? Share your stories in the comments below, because you're not alone in these struggles. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales of overcoming betrayal and building better lives. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to protect yourself from family who would harm you. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your worth isn't determined by those who share your DNA, but by the life you build and the people you choose to share it with. Stay strong, set boundaries, and never apologize for protecting your peace.